So let's talk about clipping masks in Illustrator. Something we're probably familiar with, but go through a couple of variations on this. So, as a bit of background, basically a clipping mask works on the path of an object. If I look at this page, or these 4 pages in outline mode, Command Y, I can see that I've got paths on all these except my type object here. So it's going to work on the path. And basically look at a clipping mask as placing an image or placing objects inside of a picture area, if you will, if that makes it a little simpler to understand. But creating a clipping mask is super simple. You just select your objects. So I've got my rectangle and my background object. And I've only got 2 objects. That's an important thing to point out. Clipping mask command only works on 2 objects. So I've got my 2 objects selected here, and the object I want to clip to has to be on top. So I've got those selected, and I can create a clipping mask a couple of different ways. One is if I have my properties window open, I can click, there should be a make clipping mask. I should just be able to click on that. If you don't have that, you can also go to the object menu, down to clipping mask, make, and it's Command 7 on the keyboard. And that will basically put your image or your background object inside of your foreground object. And I can still edit the crop on this if I want by simply using my direct select tool, clicking on the image, clicking on the image and moving it around. Or if I use my selection tool, if I double click on it, I can go into that clip group and scale things up or do whatever else I need to. So there's the first one. And I can also modify this clipping mask as well. So if I want to select my direct select tool, I could click on a point and modify my clipping mask in any way that I want. So there's my first object. This one I'm going to do exactly the same thing again. Nothing new on this. But I've got a little more irregular object here that I started with. I'll select these both. Command 7 is the keyboard shortcut for creating a clipping mask. Keyboard shortcuts are always great to know. They just speed up your workflow. So if I hit Command 7, that'll clip. So let's go down here and take a look at this object. Remember I said that it must be 2 objects to create a clipping mask. The image is going to, or the background object is going to go inside of the clipping mask as well as your foreground object. But here we've got 4 circles. That's not one object. And if I just group these together and select my background object, I cannot just create a clipping mask that way. It won't work. So I'll undo that. What I actually need to do is select these 4 circles and create a compound path out of them. And when I create a compound path, Illustrator will then view these 4 objects as one object. So even though I've got 4 paths that I can modify, Illustrator will view them as a single object. So with those 4 circles selected, I'll go to my object menu, down to compound path at the bottom and make. And now, if I click on that, it selects them all. Select my background object and make a clipping mask. And I can still go into that. I can still edit, scale this up, do whatever I need to. I could technically decide to start modifying some of these shapes. Maybe I want something a little more watery. I don't know. But I can modify my clipping mask that way. So the last one I have is just some live type. And anybody that's been using Illustrator for a while will know that historically, live type does not work as a clipping mask either, but they have recently changed that. So I'm going to show both ways of doing this here. So if I just select that type as one object, select my background image, make a clipping mask, it does mask the type or the object of the type. And I can still go in and edit my type. Without any issues. If you have an older version of Illustrator, if you're not working on the most recent, for whatever reason, like I said, this didn't used to work. This is a recent change. So I'm just going to command object. Oops. Mask release. So the way you need, so in versions earlier than 26, and to be honest, I'm not sure when they made this change, but I need to select that type object, go to type, create outlines, which will turn it into paths, compound path those 4 letters, and then I can select it all and make a clipping mask. So that's a clipping mask inside of Illustrator. Remember, clipping masks work on the path object, and alpha masks, in another video, those work on black and white shapes.